lesson, we will be dealing with the term fallacies. So this is another way by which a person can determine the truth. Now let's find out what fallacies are. Fallacy comes from the Latin idea fallia, which means I deceive or I mislead. A fallacy means an error of argumentation. In other words, error in reasoning or judgment. Fallacies may sound convincing and can be very persuasive at times. So you have to be very careful in analyzing statements to determine truths. There are different types of fallacies. The first is appeal to the individual or the so-called argumentum ad hominem. It argues from the deficiency or weakness of a person's character and personality, or that it capitalizes on the negative feedback against a person, especially on the negative views of an opponent, in such a way that he is not the proper person to uphold the statement he is making. In other words, attacking the individual person instead of the argument. To fully understand this, let's have examples. So the first example, you are irritatingly ugly. That is why you cannot be promoted. So as you can see here, the one who states it is attacking the person personally. So instead of focusing the argument to that person's skills, abilities, and capability as the basis or reason why he can't be promoted, the other person you use the person's weakness or physical appearance, which is a wrong basis to promote or do not promote someone. Another example. His testimony has no merit because he is an ex-convict. It is a fallacy because, again, same with the first example, it attacks the individual person instead of the argument. Another example. How he can be successful in life when he is just son of a beggar? By this statement alone, we can say that this is really a fallacy because all of us, no matter what status we belong in, we can be successful. We just have to work hard and be goal-oriented. And at the same time, in this statement, it attacks the individual person, which is wrong. Next fallacy is appeal to ignorance or argumentum ad ignorantiam. It relies on the lack of knowledge on the part of the hearers to hinder them from seeing through the speciousness of one's argument. It occurs when it has claimed that a conclusion must be true if it hasn't been proven false, or false if it hasn't been proven true. To understand this, let's have the logic form. X is true because there is no proof that X is false. Example. No one has objected to my parking policies during the last month of classes. So I suppose those policies are very good. Here, the conclusion, which is the policies are very good, must be true since there is no evidence against it because no one has objected to said policies. From here, we can say that this is really a fallacy because the person is already assuming that the policies implemented are very good just because no one is objecting. So maybe the people fears the maker of that policy, that's why they don't object. Or perhaps people just don't care at all. So here the person lacks evidence but he already made a conclusion and believed himself that the policy he implemented is very good. Now let's have example to the other logic form. You do not know what X is, therefore we do. Example statement. You cannot prove that ghosts exist, therefore they don't exist. Or, you cannot prove that ghosts don't exist, therefore they must exist. So those are examples of appeal to ignorance. Next fallacy is appeal to the people or argumentum ad populum. It urges the hearer to accept the argument because majority of the people hold to it. It is a reasoning based on popularity rather than on scientific evidence or facts. Example: everybody wants him or her to be the president. We should support him or her too. Another example: almost all my neighbors are using jumpers in their electric or power consumption, so I have to do the same. So those are examples of appeal to the people. Next fallacy is appeal to might or argumentum ad baculum. It is a threat of possible consequences to those who will not follow a certain course or dare to oppose a certain policy. The case of blackmail is also qualified here. Example: the threat of employers to decrease employment or stop their operation if forced to implement salary increases. Another example: the threat of laborers to strike if not given good working conditions and benefits. What else? Let's say a public official giving in all the excessive demands of his querida, lest she reveals to the public their illicit affair. So those are appeal to might. Next is appeal to pity or argumentum ad misericordiam. It urges the hearer to accept the argument based upon an appeal to emotions, sympathy, etc. Meaning to say, it leaves the reasons aside and plead mercy. Example: I cannot take the exam. You have to consider my dog just died. So as you can see, the speaker wants the other to accept that he can take the exam because he's too emotional, for his dog has just died. Another example: a student who failed in the test appeals for consideration to the professor. Otherwise, he or she will lose his or her scholarship and cannot continue with his or her studies anymore. Next is appeal to tradition. It is trying to get someone to accept something because it has been done or believed for a long time. Example: we have been doing this since time immemorial, therefore this is the right thing to do. The reasoning is wrong because we all know that not because you are doing that for a long time, it means it is the right thing to do. Another example: gay marriage is wrong because marriage has always been between a man and a woman. Another example: church should begin at 11 a.m. because that's the time we have always begun the church service. Next fallacy is appeal to respect or authority or argumentum ad verecundiam. Here, one makes use of the name of the authority or any prestigious personality to prove his arguments, insisting that a claim is true simply because a valid authority or expert on that issue said it was true without any supporting evidence offered. So we have here its logic form: according to person 1, who is an expert on the issue of y is true. Therefore, y is true. Let's have a sample statement. Smoking is not prohibited because our professor smokes in classroom. This is wrong because it doesn't mean that smoking is not prohibited just because the professor smokes. Another example: the verse is good because it is practiced or legalized by most advanced and progressive countries like America and most European countries. This is also a wrong reasoning because not just because it is practiced by progressive countries, divorce already considered as good. So that's the end of our discussion for today. I hope you've learned something. Thank you.